You're listening to Grown and Growing with Sonia Hamlin. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Grown and Growing. It is the last episode of the year. Cannot believe it. I made it through a year, well, almost a year of podcasting. And the episode that I have coming up, to me, is a perfect way to end 2022. I talk a little bit about this in the episode, but I had a very stressful, busy 2022. It was go, 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 achieve, 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 grind, grind, grind. And now I'm tired. And it got to the point where I didn't even want to think about 2023. Think about my goals for the year, what I wanted to accomplish in 2023. It was very hard. It made me feel tired just to think about it. And I was working with my coach, and she encouraged me to not put any criteria on what I wanted the year to be. Just close my eyes and think about, how did I want to feel in that year? And I did that. And I came away from it thinking, I would like to experience joy throughout the whole year. And actually, the first thing that came to my head was, I want to create more memories with the people I love. And that was it. And I focused on, how those things made me feel, how happy they made me. And that's really what I want to pursue in 2023. And I had more fun thinking about how to make those things come true than I did about how much money that I needed to save, how many listeners that I needed to get to hear this podcast, how many, goals that I need to set at work in order to get X amount bonus, whatever. And so I feel like this episode that's coming up with Kia is very tied into how I want to, live through 2023, how I want to approach it. So we're talking about yoga and meditation. I know that people feel a certain way. People think about yoga as a form of exercise. Some people see it as a form of self-care. They really lean into the meditation part of it. And that's how Kia is. She really leans into the meditation and spiritual aspects of yoga, which, yoga by itself can seem intimidating. And maybe it may seem intimidating to you to add meditation, mindfulness to it. But I want you to hear Kia out, hear how she talks about it, hear how it's made, changes in her life, and see if you come out feeling a little bit different about it. So without further ado, I'm going to read Kia's bio and we're going to get into this episode. Kia's love for yoga has spanned for over 15 years. And it was at Sankofa Yoga and Wellness Center in Laurel, Maryland, where she completed her 200-hour certification. Kia's vision is to promote all aspects of a journey to wellness while highlighting indigenous self-care tools that helps bring balance and ease into our daily lives. She uses compassion and playfulness to help others build awareness and self-confidence. Her classes are closely linked to music, which guides you to move and flow fluidly. Off the mat, Kia loves to participate in community outreach, travel, read, listen to music, and discover new resale and vintage boutiques locally. So without further ado, let's get into this last topic of 2023. Welcome, Kia. Welcome back to the podcast. Welcome back to Grown and Growing. How are you?
I'm well. It's a pleasure to return. Thank you for having me.
Yes, I'm so happy to have you back. I mean, I love the direction that you're going in now. This journey that you're on, and it not only resonates, I know what you're doing because you post on social media. I can just tell that you're in a different place in your life versus when we first met, or, how I follow you on social media, and I can see the changes, which is very nice and refreshing. So I love to see it.
Thank you.
So we are talking about yoga and meditation today. I purposely wanted to have this be the last podcast of the year because I think after a long year, I think everybody can agree that 2020 was long but quick, and maybe people had some challenges. It's always a time where we reflect back on the year, but also look forward to what the new year may bring. So I thought this was a great kind of subject matter to delve into given this time of the year. So I'm excited to do that. But before we do, I do want to start with you talking about your annual reading goal. So every year you read an insane amount of books. Tell me about that. When did you start? And, why did you start doing that?
So reading has always been a passion of mine. I can recall reading my first novel by Omar Tyree called Fly Girl in the summer of probably like the late 80s. And so for me, I love to read. Reading takes me to another place. It's also considered meditation for me in many regards. So the challenge came about because my mom is an avid reader as well. So she had instilled reading in me at a very young age. And it's just something that I've always enjoyed doing in my downtime. This year's goal was not as lofty as my normal goals would be, but it was 60 books. And I've exceeded.
Wait a minute. That's very lofty. Let me just.
Okay.
That's lofty for
Okay.
even for avid readers. I'm like, wow, that's a lot. So what
Yeah.
were you? So what was the most you've read in a year?
Like 212.
Whoa.
212 books. I think that was 2019. That was pre-pandemic. Life was good. And half of those books were audio books as well. So
Okay.
I listen to books and I also read them. And it all really depends on the book, how I feel. Because at one point I was driving into the office 5 days a week. So I loved
Okay.
to read or listen to books as I was driving. But then pandemic hit and life started to life. And so my reading challenges were starting to dwindle to maybe like 100 books. And then I think last year it was 150. And this year I just really kept it at 60 because there were other things going on in my life. And I wanted to ensure that I was not trying to overwhelm myself with meeting that goal. But yeah, so to date, I think I'm at 65 books.
Oh my gosh, that's
Yeah.
amazing. So if people follow me personally, or if you know me personally, about oh gosh, I don't even know when that was. Maybe 4 years ago, I decided to read. I think it was 50 books a year. I too was an avid reader. I love to read since I was a little girl. It was like also what I'm known for in my family. They know me as an avid reader, but when I had kids and married and life just got in the way. And one day I was just like, gosh, I don't even know how many books. I don't even know when the last time I read a book.
Yeah.
And that was like shocking to me. And then I saw that you were doing a challenge and I was like, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna read 50 books this year. And it's ironic because at the time in my life, now that I'm looking back on it, I was probably like slightly depressed. I was just in a really not good place mentally. I was going through some transitions and things just didn't, they weren't as, I was just not in a good place. Yeah. And so I read I was like, let me just read these books. And I'm not going to put any criteria on what kinds of books. I mean, I read everything from Gucci Mane to, I don't know, everything. I have a list if anybody wants to see it, but I didn't limit myself to what kinds of books I read, but as I progressed through the year, I credit doing that as one of the things to bring me out of my like little funk and depression and whatever I was feeling. I don't know what it was, but just getting out of my routine of coming home, making dinner, helping homework, watch TV, go to bed, rinse, repeat. It was, and so first of all, I just wanted to bring that up because it was something that I feel like was a turning point for me. Like it's like before and and after that point. So yeah, I credit you with inspiring me with that idea to do that. So thank you.
Well, thank you. I do recall us having that conversation, and I was excited that you were kind of rekindling your love of reading because it takes us away to another place where we could just put aside what we're dealing with and just kind of hop into an alternative world and picture yourself there, or even picture other people there. What I used
Yep.
to do and what makes reading so rewarding for me on so many levels is thinking about like what actors or actresses would play the
Yes.
perfect person of this character. And then if the book is really good, I'm like, oh my God, I could really see this. And then I'm just really into it, right?
Hmm.
So continue reading, take your time, have grace with yourself. But,
Yes.
there's so much going on right now that there are times where I have to force myself to read or turn the television off or, just sit with myself and say, just read 5 or 6 pages. That's not going to
Right.
hurt you. And then if
Right.
that's all you did for that day, then that's what you just did.
Yeah. And I haven't gone back. I haven't reached 50, so I haven't
Mhm.
gotten back there, but I have started to read more regularly now.
Yeah.
So I'm back. Well, I say read, but it's really just it's audiobooks
Yeah.
because life be lifing. And
It
so
does. It
uh,
does. And that's reading.
yeah.
People say, I had a friend, we had a debate, and she's like, oh, well, I don't consider that reading. And I'm like, okay, well, that is your perspective, but it is reading.
Yeah.
It is reading because if you're visual, you're trying to put together the scenario or or the story or the plot or whatever it is.
Right.
Like you're thinking about it. It's not like it's just, I mean, there are some books where you're driving and you totally forget, like, wait a minute, am I listening to a book? That happens. That
That's the
happens.
author's fault.
Okay. But I do consider it reading, and I do contribute my audibles to my reading challenge. So
Yeah.
absolutely.
I love Audible.
Mhm.
So the reason we're here, so you've always been a yogi at some point, always incorporated yoga for many years, correct? You've been doing
Yeah,
that.
like
But
about
recently,
yeah.
15 years,
Hmm.
recently you decided to become a yoga instructor. So why yoga and why now? Why did you decide to do that now in your life right now?
Well, I've always, like I said, had a deep appreciation for yoga. And it was just this moment of transformation that I just decided that I wanted to kind of deepen my practice, right? And not just about the postures of yoga or wearing cute clothes to yoga or having the flyest yoga bag. Like, I really wanted to know what yoga was about. And so the studio that I was flowing at the time, Sankofa Yoga in Laurel, Maryland, shout out to them. They were very instrumental in my spiritual growth during that time. And I felt that if I was going to become a certified yoga teacher, that's where it was going to happen. So I just plunged and I just did it. And I just knew that the 9 months, I think it started November of 2021, and I graduated July of this year. And I do not recall being so vulnerable in my life doing this spiritual awakening,
Hmm.
because yoga really opened me up to becoming the person I am today on so many levels, for how I show up for myself, how I show up for others, managing my time, what's important, what's not important, surrendering ego. So that is what yoga is about for me now. It's about
Hmm.
community, it's about family, it's about holding space for everyone of all colors, whatever, right? And I just felt like at this point in my life, I needed that. I needed to feel connected to something outside of materialistic things. I needed to feel more of a connection to myself. And once I grew into my yoga practice, I felt like, wow, I love this woman that I'm becoming. What can I do to dig a little deeper? And that's what it did. It just opened up this Pandora's box of me wanting to become a better person. And it was like
Hmm.
I couldn't stop, and I definitely couldn't go back because it was like, you're almost there. Like, you're seeing this light at the end of a tunnel, but each day you're faced with a new journey, a new challenge. And the philosophies of yoga have really helped me deal with a lot of those issues in a way that doesn't make me feel overwhelmed. It doesn't make me feel depressed. It doesn't make me feel like I cannot be who I am destined to be, because it always brings me back to the meditation. It brings me back to the breath. It brings me back to alignment. And I learned really all of that when I learned the true philosophy of what yoga is.
Yeah.
So,
And we're
yeah.
going to talk about that more, because the way that you speak about it and the impact it had on your life, I mean, first of all, it sounds amazing. I'm like, who doesn't want to feel that way? But we're going to talk about what yoga is, because I think, you know, there's different perceptions of it. And it sounds like
Yeah.
you tapped into its original purpose of it.
Yeah.
I haven't Googled what the original purpose of yoga is. That's what I'm guessing.
Yeah.
But before we get into that, I want to talk about, because you also started a business,
I did.
around this practice, Ashe, yoga and
Sure.
meditation. Tell me
Yeah.
about that, and how this journey led you to starting a business.
Okay, so Ashe Yoga and Meditation was born after I had completed my 200-hour yoga certification. And my goal was to create a community, not only for myself, but for my sisters, for my brothers, and for people who feel like yoga is not in their grasp, right? And I really wanted to also pay special attention to the Black and Brown community, because I feel that we need it. We need it more now than ever. And when I saw that there was a need, I had a conversation with myself to say, how can I bring yoga, or how can I make yoga more accessible to those in need? And that's where my business model came from. Creating karma classes, which are classes for those who may not be able to pay $25 or $30 for a class. So I will allow them to come and hold space with us for free. So I wanted to have a business model that allowed me to have people come on the mat and not worry about how they're going to pay for the class. But when they leave the mat, they feel aligned, they feel accepted, they feel like they've made a contribution to themselves. And the only way that that was going to happen is for me to create this business that was 100% legitimate and genuine, and letting them know that me as a Black woman wanted to hold space for people in my community who I feel that there's a definite need for this
Right.
happen. So I came up with Ashe, yoga and meditation. Ashe is a Yoruba word, right? And so a lot of people will say Ashe at the end of a prayer as saying amen, or it will mean it is what it is, and then it is the power to make things happen. So I felt like the power to make things happen in my community is bringing yoga to people who need it. And telling them, like, yoga doesn't mean you being bent up in pretzels and all of these, unique postures, but yoga could just you be sitting on the mat and just breathing, closing your eyes, and centering yourself, and understanding that you're in a safe space. And it could be 5 minutes, or it could be an hour and 5 minutes, but just showing people, especially of color, that yoga is for us as well.
Yeah. And I like your, first of all, what's your website again? What's the
It is Ashe, ASE, yoga flow, FLOW.com. So it's AsheYogaFlow.com.
And
Yeah.
I took a look at your website. I love it. It's
Yeah.
simple. It's still beautiful. I mean, obviously, you have a lot of style. It comes across on the website. But what really stuck out to me on your website pages was the descriptions of your classes, of the courses that you offer, because they sound so inviting. You incorporate jazz in some of them, sound work. But they didn't even though there were words that weren't familiar to me, right? It still felt like a welcoming class. Like you would come and it would be welcoming, and it would be warm, and it'll be, just a soulful
Yeah.
experience. So you
Yeah.
did a great job describing your classes,
Thank
because
you.
that's what I got from it.
Yeah, because also in our community in particular, we love music, right? So I'm very intentional about the playlist that I create for the classes. So one day you could hear Donny Hathaway, the next day you may hear John Coltrane, you may hear Cleo Soul. We link the music the breath and the movements together. So each class will be different and the playlists are different. So I'm always excited when people come up to me after class and say, can I have your Spotify playlist? I want to use this for my at-home practice. And I said,
Yes.
that's perfect. And so what I did now is I even have a link on my page now that shows all of my updated playlists so that if people want to practice at home and use
Nice.
playlists, they're there for them, because I want people to still practice yoga outside of me guiding them through their practice.
Mm-hmm.
Yoga is not just about community in a yoga studio. It's about the space that you hold for yourself in your own personal space. So I'm
Yeah.
just giving people the tools to deepen their own practice in their own way.
So the one important thing that I want people to know, because I know people who listen to this podcast aren't just in Maryland.
Uh-huh.
So you also have virtual offerings as well.
We do
So, which
have
is
virtual
great.
offerings, absolutely. And we have no problem with scheduling those with people. I don't have them really on the website outside of the virtual meditation, but we do have virtual flows for those who would be interested. And they can contact me. And if they have the space in their home to devote to a 60-minute flow, we can definitely make that happen on Zoom for sure.
Okay. Excellent.
Mhm. Yeah.
So I want to talk about yoga a little
Okay.
bit, because you touched on what it is to you and what it means to you. Is there a definition of yoga? Like, what does it really mean? Because I feel like you've tapped into some of what its original origins are. So how do you describe yoga?
I feel like, it's always going to be subjective, right? Because I do
Mm-hmm.
have Indian friends who feel that at this time, us even paying to go to yoga teacher training is just absurd, right? Because this is something that they do, right?
Right.
So I had to ask, because I know cultural appropriation is a thing, and I'm very sensitive in that department. So when people ask me for a definition of yoga, I always say yoga to me means community. Yoga means family. And then I just leave it there and then allow other people to input or create their own interpretation of what they may think that yoga is, but it's all subjective to the person and
Mm-hmm.
what it means to me as a community, because I can be anywhere in the world, and if you're flowing with two or three people, that's considered a
Mm-hmm.
community. We're a community. But the benefits of yoga is where people will all come together and agree on what they do for you. But
Okay.
my definition of yoga is community and family,
I
union.
love that. I
Yeah.
love that, because it's ironic that you describe it that way, because when I ask people, their perceptions of yoga, or even when I ask them, hey, I'm talking to someone who's a yoga instructor, like, do you have questions? Then I promise the number one question is, how do I get started? And I'm scared to get started, because people seem to be intimidated by it. And it's not just, and we know that there are beginner classes, but I've even had people tell me, oh my God, the beginner classes are so hard. Like, how is that beginner?
Mhm.
And so it's intimidating in the fact of the poses, the vocabulary, the type of people that you typically see in your typical yoga class. And even the spiritual aspect can be intimidating to people. So what do you say to people who are intimidated by getting started with yoga?
Well, I feel like a lot of people have been intimidated just by the perception or of yoga, or what that looks like, or what they may have seen on television or on YouTube or in books or just anywhere, marketing material. But for anyone who feels like they're intimidated, I would say just start small, start slowly, and maybe start at home, And so I would just suggest maybe going onto YouTube and finding a beginner's class, and not even doing the postures, but maybe just sitting on your yoga mat and looking at that person, right? And try to find someone, because now YouTube has so many teachers on there with all different types of body sizes, you name it, it's on there, because I actually watch them as well. And I would just start honestly with the breath
Hmm.
and just breathing, right? Because that's a part of yoga. It's one of the limbs, it's pranayama, which means breathing. So just breathe. You're doing yoga if you're breathing.
Yeah.
That's yoga. And then I would start with some stretching. And I always start out a lot of people that are considered beginners with stretching, because you need to have that flexibility to move your arms, right? You need that flexibility to bring your knees to your chest. And this is something that happens slowly. You don't really just go right into it. And even
Right.
before any yoga class starts, I don't care if you're in an intermediate or you're in a, professional, like I am Mr. or Mrs. Yogi, there's always a stretching. We're always stretching before we start. So start with breathing, start with stretching, and just mind your mat. And when I say mind your mat, it's just, if you focus on what you're doing, you won't be intimidated by the next person beside you. And even with me being in practice for so long, I promise you, I do not know what the person beside me is doing, the person in front of me or behind me. I'm always just focused on myself. And that's a part of that intimidation / ego that I was fighting so hard with when I came into yoga. I don't really think it's more of intimidation. I think it's more of the ego. And how do I look? Oh my God, is my stomach too big? Oh my God, is it this? Oh my God. And that's not what yoga's about. We're centering our mind. You know what I'm saying? We're getting ourselves together. We're on our own little oasis of wellness. And it's up to us to maintain that. So I just talk to them and say, listen, this is a safe space. I'm holding space for you, and no one else in this class is thinking about you. As much as you think they are, they're really not, and someone had to have that conversation with me when I was flowing with people who could do these very intricate postures, and I just wasn't there yet. So I promote props, which we can talk about later. I promote people doing what is in their willpower and just continuing on the process. Everyone who you may see on Instagram automatically just didn't wake up and can go into a full expression of a scorpion or a headstand. It took time. But the way Instagram and other social media platforms are set up, you just see the finished product, but you don't see how long it took them to master that pose, that picture. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned YouTube as a resource because, number one, the reason I am intimidated by yoga, me personally, is because it looks easy, but it's really hard. And it really, to me, it just makes me think, oh my gosh, I'm so weak. I can't even hold this pose. I'm shaking, I'm slipping, I'm not doing the poses right. So it's refreshing to say, to not to remove ego out of it so that you can have a full experience. And I actually Googled yoga. I'm like, let me Google like yoga and before I started. And it's interesting because it was, very clear what the top results were. That first page, right? Where nobody really ever goes beyond the first page, but it was all about exercise. There was no very few spiritual components of it. It was about exercise, holding the pose, getting stronger. And I promise there were no people of color. There were no people of color on the page. And so, I think, when you think about yoga, like there's a camp who is like you, who focuses on the spiritual aspect of yoga. And then there's like the exercise part of yoga where people are using it as an exercise mechanism. Do you still have that component in there, or how do you see that? Where do you see that falling into place when you think about the practice of yoga? Where does exercise and being fit into your definition of yoga?
Well, there are some styles of yoga that require you to be extremely physically fit. For example, there's a core yoga, there's a power yoga, there are some vinyasa flows that are extremely challenging. But you know what? I
Is
still go.
vinyasa hot? Is that hot yoga?
They do have a vinyasa is just means flow. So it's a
Oh, okay.
flow it's a flow, but there are some teachers who may, and I know some in particular, that have a personal trainer background. So they're much stronger than me, who comes in with love and light and oh, breathe through it and stretch through it. But I'm also a little older than a lot of the other teachers that graduated with me.
Mhm.
So what I wanted to do, and this is something that I had to really dig deep and really stand in my truth, like, what type of teacher do you want to be, Kia? And I had to say, you're not going to be doing full expression headstands, but what I will do is stretch you. What I will do is show you how to breathe. So when we're in traffic and we want to chop someone's head off, you can go to your breath and come back to the present, right? So there are some components of yoga where it is very strenuous, very um physical, and then you have some teachers who love a gentle flow, and that's me. Within that gentle flow, you're getting affirmations, you're getting mantras. I'm
Mhm.
reminding you to breathe. So I'm staying in that lane of yoga that's gentle, that incorporates me affirming you that you are someone, you're standing in your power. And believe it or not, some of the most, I guess, effortless poses require so much concentration, and that in itself can be very challenging for some.
Oh,
Or
yeah.
yeah, or
We're
just
gonna get to the meditation part.
yeah, or just standing in mountain pose where your feet are firmly rooted in the ground and your spine is straight and your eyes are closed and your hands are like by your thighs and you're just pressing down. Like, that requires strength. So it's a
Mhm.
quiet strength that people sometimes don't talk about or often take for granted, some of those poses. So again, it's very subjective. It really depends on the teacher, but I'll always, and I'll say always in my classes, have a spiritual component to my flow.
Mhm.
Yeah,
I love that. That
mhm,
first of all, the whole gentle flow,
yeah,
appeals to me. You got the right audience right here.
yeah,
Because,
definitely.
I used to think that in order to work out, I gotta sweat a lot. I have to lift. It has to be high impact. But the
Mhm,
older I get, the harder it is to maintain those. It's harder for me. And so
yeah,
now my workouts are not pounding the pavement. It's not, doing things at high speeds for infinite number of minutes. It's really about like stretching, mobility, stability, strength training.
yeah,
To me, that's where how I've changed how I work out. And it's different because my body is different. I'm older.
mhm,
The way my body responds to workouts are different.
mhm,
And so what you're describing kind of fits into where I am with working out now. It's about being stronger. It's still about losing weight, but I would love to lose weight. But it's more about, okay, I need to develop muscle. I need to be here for my kids. I need to have, I need to channel this frustration I have into workout. So I think it's taken on a different kind of stance. So I like that, when your approach to yoga still focuses on strength and still focuses on, being stronger, but it's also about being gentle, meeting your the people in your class where they are. I can't express that enough.
yeah, it's important. And also, even in my own practice, I was having a conversation with one of the teachers at the studio that I flow. And I told her Mondays are straight restorative classes for me, where we're used heavy props, where we're breathing. We don't even leave the ground for 1 hour. And that class recharges me, right? Because, like, she made a very valid question. Honor your body when you can versus when it tells you that you must, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
So I am all for a slow flow class or a yin class. It's some where you're just chill. And I tell my practitioners when they leave my class, you may break a little mist, but you can still go to the farmer's market or Target once you leave my class, because the only thing that we're going to do is really hold postures for a certain period of time so that you can really link your breath to these
Hmm.
so it's It's still a difficult class, don't get me wrong, but it's not challenging in a sense where you will feel like, oh my God, I have to go in here and do this, and I'm going to look crazy, or I'm going to be sweating. You'll get a little sweat, but you'll feel great knowing like, oh my God, I didn't know I could open my hips up like this. Like, yeah, we're doing hip opening.
Child, I'm
Yeah.
coming. When is the next class? And these hips
Well,
are
yeah, yes. Look at my website. Also, I teach at Sankofa's on Sundays,
okay.
Soul and Sound Bath, and that will resume, I believe, maybe the second week of January, just because New Year's Day or New Year's
Hmm.
Eve is on that Sunday. So yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm definitely closer to Laurel now. So,
Oh, perfect.
but
Okay.
I want to, what do you mean by props? Like,
Okay.
is it the yoga? Is it the blocks? What do you mean
Absolutely.
by
And
props?
that's what I tell all of my students, even myself, and they still laugh at me because I flow at a studio that has every prop you need, but I've invested in my own only, because of COVID. I
Hmm.
just needed my own things to make me feel comfortable. But I suggested every yogi in their in-home practice should have two blocks. They're called
Hmm.
yoga blocks. They should have either a really nice pillow or a bolster, and the bolster is something that you can use to keep yourself propped up, or you lie on it, you use it on your back, you lie back on it. A strap or a belt, you wrap that around your foot to ease your foot. So it's like you're meeting, like you said, you're meeting your body where it is, right?
Hmm.
And I always tell my girls to get them an eye mask so that when you're in Shavasana, which everyone loves, that's the end of the class where you're lying on your back for like 5 minutes to block out any light, get you a nice little fancy eye patch. And I think though, in a nice yoga mat. And we'll talk
Okay.
about that because I have so many
Yes. Tell me about yoga.
yoga mats.
Yeah, you told me about yoga, man. And I was like, yes, why do that's another thing, especially when you're in hot yoga, like
Yeah,
your feet just slide. Like it's hard for you to like
you
get grip on the mat. So
yeah,
what advice do you have?
my life changed when I really invested in a good yoga mat. It wasn't cheap, but also I practice 5 days a week, so I can justify paying that much money. But I did start off with buying one from, one of the department stores, TJ Maxx, Marshalls, and
Hmm.
those
Hmm.
work. And I still have those if I need them for a client who may not have one. But finding you a really great yoga mat makes your practice so much more rewarding because it grips your hands, it grips your feet. There's no slipping. I take Bikram classes where, I mean, I have a pool of sweat on my mat, but it does not disturb or disrupt the hand placements, your feet. I am partial to a few yoga mats. I don't know if we want to talk about them
No, you
because
can name them. I don't care because I'm like, which ones are
so
which
there's
one?
a yoga mat. My favorite is Life Form
Hmm.
yoga mats. Those are my favorite. Then there's a Jade yoga mat, which is really nice. Gaiam. I hate that I might mispronounce that word wrong, but
Yeah, I
you'll
don't
see
know what it
their
is
stuff
either.
everywhere.
I know it, but I don't
They
know how to
have
pronounce it.
amazing yoga mats as well.
So what makes them okay? So the grip is one thing. Are they thicker too? Like how thick?
Some yoga mats start at like 5 milli, like the thickness is like 5 inches. Look for a really good, like sturdy one. I think the one that I'm flowing on now, because I love to be environmentally friendly. This is a recycled mat that they use items and
Mhm.
products, and it it's amazing. I've had one for 2 years and I treated myself to another one for Christmas. So I've been using that one for about 3 weeks now. And I'll send you the links for them. But I just feel like everyone should not get a mat from like the Five and Belows and stuff like that. They're cute for the moment, but if you're really wanting to deepen your practice, you'll have to get a really good mat, right? Cork mats are amazing too because they're really good with sustaining like your hand placements, and they're also good like with bacteria because that's a thing too. People are not cleaning their mats and
Mhm.
want to make sure. And over a period of time, how often you may use your mat, you will have to buy a new one. So the lifespan of a yoga mat, if you're using it consistently, could be about 2 to 3 years, and then
Okay.
you have to buy another one. But that would be a great follow-up for me to provide you with some like my top five. Yeah,
Yes. I would love
yeah.
that.
I would
I would
send
love
that
that.
to you. Some people might, oh, that's a lot, but if you're really wanting to make sure you're not slipping.
Yeah, because
What
that
matters.
in itself makes the poses harder because
Yeah.
you're trying to keep your hand from slipping, so you're not really getting the pose, and then when you finally think you have it, it just starts to slide.
You're sliding. And that happened to me. And a shout out to one of my YTT brothers. He came in there with this very hoity-toity mat, and I saw him over there flowing, and I walked up and I was like, what type of mat is that? Because I want to invest in one. And I haven't turned back since. Like, the mat is amazing and it pays for itself, and it just makes you feel more confident when you're flowing because it has like the alignment markers on it. So you'll know how wide to have your feet when you're in like warrior 2, or if you're going into a child's pose, you know how to align your legs to come down and hinge at the hips. So I love a mat that has markers on it to show you where you should be aligned.
Okay, I can't wait to get that list
I'll
because
send it to you.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so now I want to transition a little bit to talk
Okay.
about the meditation, mindfulness, spiritual part of
Yes.
yoga because this is another, so yoga in itself is intimidating for all the reasons that I mentioned before, but then there's the mindfulness, which all sounds great.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, the world that we live in is so screen heavy. It moves so fast. Everything is so quick. The news moves quick. Everything is so fast now. And also we have been seeing our share, at least, I'm talking celebrity wise, of suicides in the
Yeah.
last, couple of weeks or even over the past few years.
Yeah.
And sometimes this world can be so tough
Mm-hmm.
to live in. And to me, what sounds appealing to me is how to block some of that out, right? Reading does that for me. Podcast does that for me. Spending time with my family does that. Meditation and yoga, meditation and mindfulness and and we'll get into the different kinds, breath work. I want to talk about that. It's something I want to do, but it's also hard for me to like turn off my mind.
Right.
And I feel like I'm doing it wrong. So again, I'm going to start with yoga. I'm going to start, like I said, with yoga, what the definition is. What is your definition of meditation?
So meditation for me is to come into yourself, like being within, like coming into your own personal island, right? And that starts in the mind space and attempting to quiet the mind, or just respecting where you are at that moment, because there'll always be distractions. The challenge is for you to find that sweet spot that will allow you that opportunity to spend time with yourself, to quiet it. And what you were speaking about before, they call that monkey brain, where your brain is like all over the place.
Yeah.
And so meditation is that oneness. It's the stillness of the mind. It's the stillness of the soul for whatever duration of time that works for you. When I first started doing meditation, I would only do 2 minutes. 2 minutes. And then you build yourself up. It's like that mental muscle that needs to be built up, like anything else, right? So 2 minutes turned into 5 minutes, 5 minutes turned into 10 minutes, 10 went to 30 minutes. I've only meditated for 35 minutes ever.
Okay.
So
it's
that's
a long time. But is the goal, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, is the goal to think about nothing, or is the goal to think about one thing? Like, what is it that your mind is supposed to be doing in meditation?
The mind is supposed to quiet, and you're supposed to focus on your breath.
Okay.
Breathing in through the nose, exhaling through the mouth or the nose, and just appreciating and acknowledging anything that you may be thinking about, or you may hear on the street, or the kids, mom, can I have this? You're on your own internal little island at this moment, right? And so meditation just helps you find that clarity, that balance that is required for you at that moment, to mentally prepare yourself for whatever you have coming up or just because. So meditate first thing in the morning. I always encourage my practitioners, if it's 5 minutes before you pick up your phone, before you brush your teeth, before you kiss your sweetie, before you make your bed, anything, you could just lie right there. Close your eyes, breathe, exhale, breathe in, exhale, and do that for 5 minutes if you can. If it's challenging, put on some music that has no lyrics and meditate to one song. I started out meditating to In a Sentimental Mood by John Coltrane. It's like 5 minutes and 15 seconds. No words, but just breathing, not thinking about anything. And if something does come up, you honor it and then you connect back to your breath. And you'll feel so much better knowing that you invested in yourself before anything else is able to come in and disrupt that moment. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So the breath is good because to me, I feel like, okay, if I'm doing the act of breathing, that's also something for me to focus on. Like if I'm starting to think about my to-do list, what I got to do, I can say, oh, bring it back to the breath. Like, are you breathing?
The breath all the time. You're in a meeting, like people don't understand how important the breath is and how the breath will bring you back into the current moment. Oftentimes we're so fixated and worried about what's going to happen 5 or 10 minutes from now. And if we just stay in this moment that we're in, half the issues that we deal with will not even be an issue because it's all fake. We don't know what's going to happen 5 or 10 minutes from now, but we do know what's happening right now. So when we are mindful of being present, that's what meditation helps you do. It helps you with staying present because you're in that moment of meditating. You're in that moment of stillness. So again, I still have problems with meditating on certain days, but I just sit there and not force myself, but encourage myself to give myself this moment of clarity to help me get through the day. If I'm having a rough time at work, I'll just go into my office and close the door and put on some music or put on just something very soft just to help me realign myself. And that all starts with the breath. The breath is extremely powerful.
And what I've noticed about me and breath as I was kind of preparing for this, I don't know if this happens to anybody else, but I find myself holding my breath a lot.
A lot of people,
like even during this conversation, I hold my breath. If I'm working and I'm working on an email, I'm holding my breath and I don't even realize it until I'm like done with the sentence or done, with what I'm trying to do. And I'm like, oh, I was holding my breath. Even like during this conversation, I have to remind myself, okay, you're holding your breath. Why? And it's something that I do unconsciously. And so that's why I was interested in breath work because I'm like, that can't be good. Cause that's like, what are you holding your breath for? Like for the other shoe to drop? Like, what is it? It's weird.
It's very common. I mean, everyone always says that. I'm actually even guilty of doing the same thing. But when you become mindful and understand, like, did I do any breathing exercises today? Okay, well, let me just take 3 minutes to do that. And that's all it takes. And you'll be amazed at how much more alive you'll feel once you learn how to master breath work. It is something that I continue to work on, but I also encourage my practitioners, family members, whomever, find your own unique breath, because in class I do guide you, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, but then I'll stop and say, okay, I've already told you guys how to breathe in, breathe out. Now find your breath, find your own rhythm, and continue that here and outside, because that's what you'll need to stay centered. If you're ever, and I challenge you, because the Christmas holiday is coming, things become very chaotic. When you feel overwhelmed, just stop. I don't care where you are, and just breathe. And once you get yourself together, it could be 20 seconds, it could be 30 seconds. Then you're giving yourself an opportunity to say, okay, I can do this, but before I move on, I just need to take this second for myself to breathe. You do it, you'll feel so much better. And I know it sounds so cliche or just so, but it works. It works because you have to honor yourself in that way, or you'll be a hot mess.
You'll be a hot mess. And it's so funny because I was working with my coach. We're kind of ending our session relation, like, this part of our journey. And one of the things we were working on before our last meeting was, thinking about 2023, like, what do you want to, what are you thinking? And the way she asked me, she didn't say, what are your goals for 2023? She phrased it in a different way that was a little softer. What are you thinking about in the next year? And I heard, what are your goals? What do you want to do?
Yeah.
And she took me through this exercise where she was like, no, I didn't ask you about your goals. I just want you to, and I was freaking out a little bit because I'm like, I don't have goals. I'm tired. I'm like, I don't, normally I'm very like, okay, what do I want to achieve? What do I want to check off at work? What do I want to do personally? I write the whole list. I'm like, let me, put some goals down, some money goals. Like I try to, categorize it based on, different aspects of my life. And I didn't do that this year. And it was kind of like in the back, like bothering me, but I also didn't want to think about it because I've had a very busy, packed year. The launching a podcast is just one aspect. I started a new job, I got a new promotion, a new team. It was just crazy. It was a crazy year, but I also felt like the year sped by. Like I felt like I was playing catch up. Like, oh my God, it's summer. Summer's here. Oh my God, summer's over. Oh my God, spring break is here. I didn't plan. I felt like I was always trying to play catch up this whole year. And so she had me close my eyes. She was like, whatever comes to you is the thing that you should be focusing on. There's no right and wrong. Yeah. And honestly, my mind went to creating memories, creating more joy, more feeling of myself. Like the rat race of achievement. And I'm a very high achieving person. I like goals. I like setting them, but I'm tired. I just want to enjoy life, which is, I felt like it aligned so well with this last podcast. I felt like it was almost kismet coming together at a time when I really needed it. And I appreciate, being able to find out more because I do want to be centered in myself. I feel like, we've been like running and achieving and having kids and doing it all and being, being, superwoman. I'm just tired now. I don't want to be superwoman anymore. I want to have good memories and positive memories. So I was really looking forward, to us talking because I felt like, okay, this fits with where I want to be in 2023. So there's no question there, but I just wanted to share, personally for me where the connections were.
I appreciate it because it's funny because I was having a conversation with a friend today and I said, I in 2023 will not make goals, right? But I will write out my intentions, what my intentions would be or what they will look like. And manifesting it in a way of writing them down because I want to be realistic about these intentions. And intentions to me sound so much more
yes, it's a great word
gratifying than goals. Goals to me are very much what I do at work. And I always achieve my goals at work, but in my personal life, I wanted to really tap into more of my feminine energy, be much more softer. So intentions resonate, the word intention resonates with so much more. And that's my goal before the 1st of January is to write down what my intentions are, what they look like, and how I will make them happen. And as you were saying, you spoke with your mentor, I spoke with mine, and just the visualization component of it is like this time next year, 2023, we're talking those intentions that you've set, those intentions that you visualized and manifest. Let's talk about them now. What would that look like? So now I'm excited about it because I can see it. I'm speaking them to life. I'm holding space for them.
Yes.
I can see it. So that makes me so much more excited to write these intentions down versus goals. Goals to me just seem too corporate-y, too professional, sometimes very unrealistic. And
it sounds like you got to grind. And I'm tired of grinding.
Exactly. I want to be soft. I want to rest. I want to nap. I want to eat popcorn and sit on the couch and watch television and be okay with it unapologetically because rest is important. And if I could interject anything into your goals or into whatever you're working on, make time for rest.
Mm-hmm.
That is so
Really?
important. And I'm
Yeah.
really encouraging everybody, especially in my inner circle, to rest.
Yeah.
Rest is also a part of mindfulness, because if you are not recalibrating yourself mentally, spiritually, physically, mindfully, what are you doing?
What is it all for?
What is it
Yeah.
for? You
And I
gotta
walked away with that from that conversation with my mentor, um, feeling much more excited about 2023. It became almost fun to think of all the ways
rest.
I could create memories with myself, with my sisters, with my family, with my husband. It was like, oh, this this sounds a lot better than I need, to lose 20 pounds. I need to save X amount of money. I need to get X amount of followers on my, YouTube and social media pages. And even with this podcast, like I just want to let it go. I mean, so
Give
I was
yourself
very
rest.
excited about. I'm glad that she shifted my perspective on that, because I was literally dreading, like, oh my God, she's gonna ask me for my goals, because that's what she does. She's a coach.
Yeah.
But I'm glad she didn't, force me to go down that path, because I was not feeling it, honestly.
No one does.
Um,
No
the
one does.
last thing about meditation that I want to talk about, and if I didn't hit on something, let me know.
Mhm.
But I wanted to ask you about sound meditation. Is that what it's called?
So
Sound
yeah,
bath
so sound
meditation.
yes. So sound bath meditation is also a service that I provide for my clients. And basically what happens is it's just like the recalibration of your body, right? Your chakras. Just allowing yourself to feel the vibrations. Have you ever encountered a sound bath yet?
No, I haven't.
So essentially, I would use these crystal bowls that resonate with different parts of your body, especially like the chakras, starting from the crown of your head all the way down to your feet. I'll play chimes. I'll play the gong, which
Mm-hmm.
also just you could just feel it in your soul. Like all of this just starts to vibrate. It's such an amazing feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the benefits of sound bath, it helps with insomnia. It definitely helps with depression. It's an
Mm.
overall experience that when people like get up and get themselves together, they're just like, oh my God, what did I just experience? And I absolutely love it. And I'm actually continuing on and educating myself on what each of these instruments, how your body responds to each of these instruments.
Mm-hmm.
Some very in-depth training coming up in January, where I will become certified in sound bath meditation, but it is a vibe. I must.
Okay. So do you just lay there, or are you doing
Yeah.
yoga too, or no?
No, you're
Oh,
lying there completely still. You're using your props, and usually during this time, your body temperature kind of it lowers, so you get a little chilly. So I always they come in with blankets and all kinds of stuff, socks on. They're prepared, right? Because they know they're going to get cold. And then I start to play bowls, right? Very slowly, and it resonates this sound that has a different effect on different people. For me, I hear a ringing in my ears. My fingers could possibly start tingling. You get a little twitch going on. Then I have one girlfriend who told me that she felt an outer body experience when she had it. It was almost like the vibration of the instruments was so strong into her body that she almost felt like she was like coming up off the ground a little bit.
what?
What? So each person has a different experience, and I
And it's
do.
not loud. It's just
It can
the.
be loud, but I do have. I've noticed that some practitioners who facilitate sound would have their students turn their head towards the music, where I don't do that. I'll have them turn their feet towards me and have their head in
Mhm.
the opposite direction, just because I want to make sure that nothing happens beyond
Mhm.
my control, right? And
Right.
so The experience that I felt afterwards was a feeling of feeling light. I felt extremely calm. I used to have migraine headaches, and I met up with someone who told me, she was the person who actually introduced me to sound bath. And she said, if you do this consistently, I'm sure this will help you with your migraines. And I probably have a migraine maybe 3 times a year now, where I was having extremely frequently. So it helps with headaches. Some people like me, I go on Monday nights at 7:15 to 8:15. When I come home, I just take a shower and go to bed, because you're in this Zen type of state that you don't want to do anything else. It calms your body down to a state where you're just so relaxed and just ready to just, well, I have not met anyone who wanted to go out dancing after a sound bath. It just really puts you in this meditative state that puts this overall calmness over you.
So how long is a sound bath? How long is that
So my
class?
sound baths range from 30 minutes to an hour. Sometimes I'll do a 90-minute sound bath, but that will also incorporate maybe some affirmations, some mantras, and things of that sort. But usually when we're having sound bath, they're either falling asleep or they're in this meditative state that they don't really hear anything else that's going on. And 9 times out of 10, that is me too. So I have to make sure that if I am saying anything of importance, it's once I've brought them out of this trance, because they're so zen that I could say anything and no one will hear me. They won't hear me.
So these all sound, first of all, it sounds amazing. It sounds like the equivalent of going to the spa.
Oh, it is definitely, yes, I could say that. It does feel that way, outside of touching all on you, but yeah.
So, and I can imagine, like, if it's new to somebody, what mindset? Is it a similar mindset that you describe with yoga, where you go in open-minded, you focus on yourself? What else do you recommend people do when they are experiencing either the meditation, the sound bath, the breath work? What do you ask people to do to prepare for that, particularly if they're new to it all?
Oh, so when I have new students come in for sound bath, I explain to them some of the I'm not even gonna say side effects, but some of the feelings that you may feel. And so what I said, sound bath meditation helps you focus on the present moment and clears your mind of any distractions. It can help achieve a deeper state of relaxation, which can lead to better sleep, reduce levels of stress, and improves your mood. And I said, it increases your overall energy level and enhances creativity. But to enhance this experience, I always ask my students to come about 10 minutes earlier to get yourself set up, right? To eat light. Don't eat anything heavy, drink water, because that's very important with sound bath, is to be able to be hydrated. Invest in the blankets, like we mentioned, and to get comfortable, because you're going to be on your back for a good 60 to 90 minutes. So you want to make sure that you're comfortable and warm. Wear layered clothes and come with an open mind and heart. And if you have questions afterwards, then, I'll answer them. Some people think like, oh, this is way too much. I'm not prepared for this. What are we doing? What is that sound? Oh my God, are you dropping something? I've had this happen where I play like a rain stick and the lady's like, oh my God, did you just drop something? And I'm like, no, I didn't drop anything. It is the sound of the rain.
No, lay down, relax.
Yes, relax. It's so beautiful. This is just a part of it. So when it's always going to be foreign to someone who hasn't experienced it, but once you learn how your body responds to it, you'll have a deep appreciation for it. And I love it. I go once a week, and I even pull my bowls out. I have some time for the holidays, so I will be playing my bowls this week before Christmas. And it helps me with my mood. It helps me to become centered. And it also helps me unblock some of those chakras that could just be like tight.
What is a chakra? What is that?
Oh, that's a totally different conversation.
I hear people say it. I was like, I don't know what it is.
Chakras. Oh, that we'll have to come back for that one for sure. It's the whole
Okay. And does
chakra.
everybody have a chakra? Does
Oh,
everyone have
you
one?
have a chakra from the crown of your head to the balls of the soles of your feet. Yes, everyone has these chakra points, and it's yes. I have a flow for chakra now, where we have essential oils that resonate with each chakra and a stone.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, and chakras are really an important component of your overall
Okay.
well-being.
Is it a part of your body or is it something inside of your body?
It's
Or
yeah. So the
okay.
crown chakra, you have your I know you've heard people say your third eye chakra.
Okay.
You have
Okay.
your throat chakra.
Oh, I've heard throat. Yeah.
You have your throat chakra. You have your heart chakra. You have your okay. Wait a minute. We have crown,
Mm-hmm.
third eye, throat, heart, solar plexus, sacral, root chakra. And all of them play a very key part in how you maneuver through your life.
Okay. That's part two.
Part two, we come
I have to bring you back to talk
chakras.
about chakras. All
Yeah,
right.
or if you
So
come to a class and I will get you all aligned because sound bath and chakras go hand in
hand in
hand.
hand. Okay. I'm going to take a sound bath
Yes,
class for sure.
please do.
Okay. So I was wondering this when I was thinking about like what I wanted to ask you, because I don't want people to think like there is Zen, there is being centered, there is being peaceful. Can tapping into that part of yourself coexist with being ambitious? Can it coexist with ambition and being a go-getter? Like, I feel like they are two counter things, but I guess they don't have to be, right? How do you see that, those two things playing together?
I think any person that is ambition, I think that any person who has a very stressful job needs to have some type of mindfulness practice in their
Right.
life. If not, it will become extremely overwhelming and unhealthy for them. And I don't understand or foresee them being very successful for a very long time. Some of the most powerful people in the world have a yoga and meditation practice, or
Right.
they practice breathing. And now me watching television, I'm not sure if you see, I even see people doing sound bowls and sound bath meditation now on television. I'm like,
I'm probably gonna see it now. I did.
you're going to see it now. And so I do think that it's important. And me working in a setting with attorneys, they're even understanding in law firms how important mindfulness is. And I started in January, we'll be working with several legal professionals, and I've created a wellness Wednesday for them just to show them how important it is at their lunchtime to breathe.
Send my husband. Like he's not even a part of, of your practice, but
I've worked with them all my life, and those are the most highly driven people I've ever met. Some of them will go and forget to eat lunch, and go and forget to drink water, all of these things. But after the pandemic, I really feel that a lot of them really reevaluated how they want to move going forward. And they've come up to me and said, there's something about you that changed. I don't know what it is, but whatever it is, I want some. And I said, it was yoga and meditation. It was like, oh, you mean when you do this and you do that? And I said, yes, that's what it is. And they were like, put us down for that. So I've created a program for them for Wellness Wednesday, help them with learning how to still be a high achiever and a go-getter, but you're still going to carve out some time for yourself to become balanced mind, body, and spirit. Yeah, it's important.
Yeah, it is. So before we wrap up, I do want to ask you about a couple of things that you have coming up. So one is your Envision Your Future Yoga and Vision Board Workshop. I think it's January 7th.
It is January 7th. It will be held in Ellicott City. For those who sign up, they will get the address.
I didn't know that. That's my neighborhood now.
Yes, it's gonna be in Ellicott City from 1 to 3 p.m. And it's going to be a workshop that's really going to help anyone. It's for men, women, whoever wants to come. They have to be 18, of course, but just really helping them visualize what they want their 2023 to look like. And we will focus on one area of that life, because sometimes vision boards can kind of get a little
Yeah, I usually make my vision boards in
yeah
sections.
exactly.
Mhm.
And that's what I've learned from a SMART goal perspective. Like, you never can really appreciate what you're trying to do because you're spreading yourself too thin. So the goal is to focus on that one part of your life that you want to cultivate more enrichment in. And so we will be working on that. We will also have a gentle, slow flow vinyasa and sound bath during this workshop. And I think it's a great opportunity for people to get together and help each other manifest what 2023 should look like for them. So we're hoping space for each other.
Yes, I know you only have like limited seats, like 5 seats left. So I'm like, I need to get myself together so I can be there.
Please join us. I think that it will it's going to be life-changing. It's also going to set the tone for 2023, because again, operating mindfulness, manifestation, visualization, and encouragement for everyone who's attending. Yeah, so it will be
great.
Ordinary vision board party for sure.
All right, I'm looking forward to it. Absolutely. So I'm gonna hurry up and sign up before those 5 seats.
Yes,
sign up before this come out so I can have my seat already.
Yes.
The other thing that I wanted to mention on this podcast, as maybe a challenge to the listeners, is every Monday at 7 a.m. from 7 to 7:30, you have meditation virtually. It's a virtual meditation. And it's free. And I want to challenge people who listen to this podcast, no matter where you are, to do this with me, to do a month of meditation. So it's Monday, right? So it's not committing to it every day. We're going to start off on Monday at 7 a.m. And do this meditation for the month of January to kick our year off. I've done it once. It's hard. I need to move my workouts because I go to the gym and I usually I used to leave the gym at 7. But I do want to encourage my grown and growing listeners to join me at 7 a.m. on Mondays if you can, for virtual meditation with Kia.
Yeah.
So do you want to say anything about how Mondays are? I've done it before and it's been great. It's a nice way to, first of all, it's on a Monday, which if you don't need meditation any other time, on Monday.
Mondays are important because I used to not like Mondays, but that's a totally different podcast, but I've grown to appreciate them now. And so I wanted to cultivate mindfulness on the Mondays before people start their day. And I just asked that you bring a journal, maybe light a candle or incense to kind of get some type of what is it, like just a vibe, create whatever vibe you need for the 30 minutes that we're together. I do encourage you to turn your screens or your monitors on so that I can see you. Find a safe space in your house with no distractions, and we meditate, and I also provide you a journal prompt that you would use for that particular week. And then we'll also hold space for each other, check in mentally, see how maybe someone on the call can maybe be that person for you. You may not even know that person, but they may be able to provide you with encouraging words at that time that can help you get through whatever it is that you're going through at that time. So I love the Monday morning meditations with Kia because we are building a community of women and men who all have that same common goal of finding a way to quiet the mind, finding a way to find a rhythm or some type of method of keeping their mind centered and aligned before they go out into the world and allow anything to disrupt that. So Monday set the tone of the week, and I just wanted to provide this karma offering to people on Mondays to at least just get them that jump start before they start.
So you have to give me the information for that because I want to make sure we share it on social media, because I know there's maybe a specific page where you share the time and on social media where you share the time and the place and how we can log on to that. So be on the lookout for that. Meditation Mondays. We're going to have a January challenge. I'm going to challenge myself to do that every Monday in January, and then as often as I can after that. So thank you so much, Kia, for coming to the podcast. Is there anything I didn't ask you about what you do that you want to share before we go?
But I have one loving suggestion for you that I would like to do with. I would love for you to continue to lead yourself with grace. Give yourself
thank
grace.
you.
You're welcome.
Yes, because I need it.
Yes.
I need to
give
myself grace. Yes.
Self-grace. You're doing a great job, and I'm so very proud of you.
No, thank you. I appreciate that. That makes me feel so good. So thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for your time. And for everybody else, I will see you next time.
Take care.